Well, welcome to Pulse, and this is Kent Adams. And one of the things that I really enjoy in doing Pulse is to learn new things and to bring in some friends and some good people in our community. And today we're going to be talking with Larry Haskell, who is the county prosecutor for Spokane area. Fortunately, he's not seen my name on anything recently, so I guess that means I'm okay, or at least I haven't been charged yet. We're going to learn what's going on in the whole issue of equality and equity and other things, including DUIs in our Spokane area. It's kind of a little bit of a personal thing. I really think our state needs to step up and convict people and some jail time on the first offense, and we need to put a stop to that. And I say that only because I think of my wife and I think of my grandkids and your relatives out there who could be slammed by a car from a drunk driver, and we need to be protected from that. I think that's part of the overall law enforcement process. But Larry and I will talk about that and some other things right after this message.
What? You haven't been to the library lately? Stop in today and see that the library is more than books. Spokane County Library District facilities feature on-site technology, including Wi-Fi, computers, and printers, as well as free use of meeting rooms. The Library District offers events and programs for all ages, from story times to career development and employer classes to Social Security workshops. Our staff is well trained and happy to help. Find out more about your library at scld.org.
To help you be safe, Washington state law requires you to call 811 2 full business days before you plan, for example, to dig, drill, plow, pull from, or pound anything into the ground. Be prepared to provide the operator with the correct address, cross street, and the description of your work. You must mark the dig area with white paint. The operator will inform you of the utilities notified of your impending excavation. Wait for all their marks. Be safe and dig with care.
When building a home or considering a major remodel, who are you going to choose? The Spokane Home Builders Association is an organization that works to elevate professionalism in the residential construction industry. We promote, protect, and educate for our community, building our community one home at a time. We are the Spokane Home Builders Association.
Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful, it needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
Well, welcome back. I'm pleased to have Larry here, and I'm thinking back to, was it 2 years ago when you were running again?
Yeah, 18.
Yeah. And we were talking about, all kinds of things during your campaign. And then how many opponents did you have?
0.
Yeah, that was kind of easy, wasn't it?
Well, it is, but what it does though is, for some anyway, it kind of takes away the motive to actually go out and meet the people.
Yeah.
So I did some doorbelling anyway,
Good.
because that's how you know what's on people's minds.
Yes.
You come to their door politely, and of course now COVID, so thankfully it was 2018.
Yeah.
But I enjoy getting out and talking to people and finding out what's on their mind. And I actually got to help a couple people that had issues at the time with paying taxes on their property and that sort of thing.
Oh,
so
nice.
I worked with the assessor and got them hooked up. And so you just never know what kind of gold mine of opportunities there are when you go out into the neighborhoods and meet with people.
I think it's always good. We see too many politicians these days, and I think across the country that, they buy the ads and everything else, but aren't talking with everyday people. And it's we everyday people that have issues, but nobody hears about it, or that hears about it that can do something about it,
Well, the other thing that it helps me do anyway is do my small part in dispelling the notion that we're not responsive. I think Spokane County residents are very fortunate in many ways. I think relative to other places that I've lived, and having done a career in the military, I've lived in a lot of communities.
Right.
This community is very responsive, and the elected officials, I think, relative to what I've seen in other communities, are they listen and they're responsive to the needs. You're never going to please everybody.
No.
But the fact that you're accessible and that you do respond and you put people in touch with the resources that
Well,
they
and
need.
give an honest listen to
Amen.
people and their concerns, you know,
Amen.
and there may be the fact that, sorry, ma'am, there's nothing we can do about it. That becomes a civil action or whatever it may
Or a
be.
statutory change.
Yeah, yeah, and
Can
you
be
need to
that.
talk with so-and-so to get some change done.
True.
A lot going on recently about equality and equity. And I always thought, tell me if I'm wrong, that one of the things we really strive for as individuals, as a government, and I think of on the judicial side especially, and so forth, that we want to be, number one, a country of laws that we live by. Those laws are enacted usually through our elected representatives, sometimes at the state level signed by the governor, at the U.S. level signed by the president, and so forth. So it goes through that process, hopefully having a fair hearing and discussion, although that can be challenging these days with the political atmosphere. We'll recognize that. But that's how it's supposed to be. But then that we look at everything being equal. If I'm going to rob bank A over here, I should get the same punishment and opportunity for punishment as someone who did bank B over here. It's essentially the same amount of money. Nobody was hurt. You know, the circumstances are fairly. Today, it seems like we need that there's a wanting to move into other circumstances, whether it be their income level, their race, other issues that should be mitigating, if you will. Is that allowed?
Well, not in my view of the statutory and constitutional schemes that we have.
Oh,
both
just the
at-
Constitution, huh?
Even the Constitution says equal treatment under the law.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in the state constitution that's contrary to that. And you pointed out a couple of criminal acts there, and the fact is that the statutory scheme in Washington prescribes equal treatment as well.
Okay. Well, what's going on with some reporters and some elected officials, I think on the city council, I think, and there's a, Ozzy talks about there's a kind of a reform group, county, I think it is, that Brian and others sit on, and he said you'd be absolutely surprised, Ken, how liberal the group is in terms of things going on. Why is there so much of that going on when in some cases these folks are attorneys and should understand the equal treatment?
Yeah, I can't get into somebody else's head. What I do know is what's written, and what's written is that we are, as you kind of mentioned previously, we're a nation of laws.
Yes.
And we operate under the rule of law, and these laws, generally speaking, like you said, they're passed either by members of the Congress at the federal level or members of the state legislature.
Right.
They are ostensibly the voice of the people.
Right.
They are elected directly by the people in their legislative district, for instance, here in Washington. So they have given us a statutory scheme for many things, but most specifically, we're talking the discussion in the media lately has been on the issue of criminal law and its application. I'm a firm believer that justice is to be blind. It may not always be, but that doesn't make the goal of it not the correct goal.
You strive for that.
Absolutely.
We're not perfect as humans.
Absolutely,
You know.
and so, but I believe that Lady Justice, as they say, should be blind, rightfully so,
Right.
and that what gets weighed is in the criminal system is whether or not there's a violation of law, what type of law, and what type of penalty has the legislature associated with it.
And that's outlined, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not like you or your staff make it up or the judge makes it up. There's a procedure to follow on that.
Correct.
I want to ask about the DUI issue because I'm very concerned as a parent, grandparent, and so forth that one of these days somebody I'm going to see in my family be affected by someone who has been out drinking or on narcotics or whatever it may be. I've heard that oftentimes the first offense is off for time spent in the jail or whatever. How do we increase that penalty to move people away from continuing to drink?
And that's a tough proposition. There's no question about it.
I wasn't going to ask a simple question.
Well, by golly, I'm right here with all the answers. Well, there's been numerous efforts in the state legislature to increase the penalty and therefore hopefully the deterrent factor that's involved with it. DUI convictions are costly.
Yeah.
There's mandatory fines. There's a small amount of mandatory jail for the first offense, might be a day or two.
Okay.
That's not really the issue. The issue is the fact of the conviction, the fact that it's a huge public safety risk, the fact that statistics show that people drive drunk many times before they're even stopped by a law enforcement officer. That's pretty well established. And back in 2016, in my first term, when we had been seeing an uptick in the DUIs in Spokane County, I toughened up the police standards that we had here. You can't try every case. There's not enough courts. There's not enough judges, and you
So
don't
that's
have
the
resources.
reality.
That's the reality
Yeah,
of it. So the fact is, you have to carefully select either the most chronic or the most egregious facts or that sort of thing for cases that you're going to use that valuable court time for. Just at the felony level, and this is a little bit off the DUI, but just to give you an example of the reality, Kent, if we have 5,000 new felonies, which we file on average about that many per year, we have 12 Superior Court judges. There's 52 weeks in a year, so you multiply that. Then subtract from that the civil docket, the family law docket, the juvenile docket, and vacation time and judicial conferences. And if you tried as many cases as you could possibly, you would be fortunate to get 300 or so out of the 5,000. So now, not all cases will settle in a given year of filing, but just by way of example, the other 4,700 cases have to resolve in some other manner. So what we do is we look for making the victim whole where there is a victim. We look at restitution. We look at restitution not only for financial losses but for personal injury and expenses and that sort of thing. It's a statute that guides what you can get restitution for and what you can't. And we try to get a measure of accountability to maintain the deterrent fact. But the truth is, whether it's at the district court or the Superior Court level, we're only going to be able to try a certain number of cases
I
per
didn't
year.
realize the numbers at all.
Yes, and in the
That's staggering.
in the district court, the trials are shorter.
Right.
A DUI trial often is a day and a half, maybe 2 days. 3 is a long DUI trial, so they're not taking up as much time. But at the Superior Court, I mean, one of the cases that I tried not that long ago was a 6-week triple homicide. So that's 6 weeks worth of trials, all for one
Which doesn't
case.
include preparation and all the other things
Oh,
that
gosh.
go with it.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
Yeah.
Weeks,
Yeah.
weekends.
Yeah.
Those two.
Yeah.
So, but we have to measure that out and teach our younger lawyers how that's done most effectively.
Yeah. I've got to ask, you bring up a good point when you talk about 300 out of 5,000, but that doesn't relieve your staff from negotiating and all the other things that go with that.
Oh, not
so,
at all.
So now they're really dealing with all 5,000 in one form or another. Some probably could be reconciled pretty quickly and so forth, and others maybe a little more negotiation and so forth. How do you motivate your staff to keep the spirits up from doing all of that?
You do everything you can except what you can't. And,
Typical attorney talk, right?
What I mean by that
Yeah.
is, unfortunately, I have very little say on what the county pays.
Okay.
So the county, as you know, the county general fund is made up primarily of sales tax and property taxes. The state doesn't fund the criminal justice system. They do very little for it. Many states fund it entirely. The Office of Public Defense is paid for by the state, and more money is spent on prosecution. So it's a county by county deal.
Wow.
So what I try to do in my office is I try to make sure that we have an environment that is encouraging and supportive. Pick on one of us, pick on all of us. I will drop what I'm doing to help you. I'll drop what I'm doing to teach you. We're very much of a teaching environment right now because we do have, when I took office in 2014, we knew that we had a lot of gray hairs, as they call us, and
Yeah,
that
careful.
we would see, I'm not going deep in that, but we would see in my time as the elected that the retirements would come, and they are coming. And now the county has the voluntary retirement program in effect. I think tomorrow may be the last day to sign up, and I've had a number of people take advantage of that too.
Oh, wow.
So that's caused a few retirements to accelerate over what they might have been. But we try to create an environment that's supportive and as conducive as we can to show people that, yeah, you know, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
I know we got a lot of work to do. All you got to do is raise your hand, and we're going to get you some help, or we're going to get you some training. You know, I encourage people. The county is generous enough to give you earned vacation time. Take it.
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
really need to take it.
yes.
Because it's like you know, the body needs some downtime. The mind needs some downtime. I do what I can when budget time comes around. The county allocates its resources according to priorities, and public safety is a huge priority. So you know, we have that going for us. But there is a limited amount of money to go around.
Yeah. Well, there always is for everything. We know that. But on average, do you lose some of your folks because they can make a lot more in the private sector?
No question.
No question.
Particularly for staff.
Okay.
Yeah, non-attorney staff.
Okay.
I often say, you know, they work for benefits and gas money.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, in many respects, that's about all there is.
So do
and-
we need to be lobbying our commissioners? Because a
Well-
couple of them are up for election.
Well, let me tell you,
And they're
though,
friends, but I mean-
sure. No, lobbying the commissioners is important because of the fact that ultimately they do represent the legislative branch, which
Right.
is the funding branch. However, knowing the picture as I do,
Yeah.
I also know that the board, you know,
Their back is against
they're
the wall.
gonna,
Yeah.
and everybody is, you know, has their priorities. Every department has their priorities.
Of
I think the real answer for better funding for the criminal justice system is for the state to pick up additional responsibility. Up until COVID, we were running surpluses in the billions of dollars, and now
and that's
they're
where a lot of the laws come from that you have to.
exactly, yeah.
to
so,
follow through on.
You know, but you know, they have their priorities too. But again, public safety is a huge priority. I have told people that if we're not, if the most important priority of the local government especially isn't public safety, I'm not sure what else you would put above that.
No.
You know, so when someone's sick, they need to be able to get a doctor
Right.
or an ambulance. When someone is being victimized as a crime,
Right.
they need to have a law enforcement response. You know, to the extent that we can, I think Spokane makes very good use of very frugal
Yeah,
resources.
no, I would agree. Well, both the city and the county, I agree. I think do a great job. I think back to the first time our friend Jeff Holey was running for office. Okay, here's a former detective and policeman and all of that, and he was talking about. Well, can't the the issue I'm going to campaign on is safe streets, and I said no, it's not. It's safe neighborhoods. Okay, that's police talk.
Yeah.
That's prosecutor talk, maybe.
Yeah.
But we all, as voters, live in the neighborhoods.
Yes.
I want to know when I leave in the morning that my wife and my cats and whatever are safe.
Right.
Okay, and that's what it comes down to. And we all want that. And we are, in so many ways, very fortunate when you look at some of what's going on across the country and so forth.
Amen.
And we've had our issues, and I think we'll continue to have our issues. And we're not, just like everybody else, we're not a perfect community. But I'm impressed with Craig and with Ozzy and the people we have. Even you. I mean, we have good people that care about us as citizens, and we'd be hard pressed to find that in other communities, even in this state. Look what happened in Seattle.
Yeah, that was less than amusing.
No, yeah. No.
Less than amusing.
Yeah, yeah. What else is on your mind, Mr. Prosecutor?
Well, there's
What's coming down the road that we should all be
coming down the
watching
road?
forward for?
Well, I think we're going to have more and more discussions about law enforcement and police reform.
Yes.
I think that all the county agencies are willing to listen, and they are open to common sense reforms, the ways you can do things better.
But the key there is common sense.
Well, you certainly don't want to violate statutory schemes. I mean, the issue then becomes: do we need a legislative change? The legislature's getting ready to go into session, so what's coming down the pike right now is going to be literally as we speak. This time frame of the year is when the legislative agenda for 2021 begins to take shape.
Yeah.
And these types of priorities, police reform and oversight issues, and the way that we fund this program versus that program are all on the table right now.
Okay.
Department of Corrections is, I think the state's looking at a 15% budget cut, and Department of Corrections has put out a proposal that part of which they can do on their own, and part of it they're going to need some legislative help, i.e. Statutory changes to do, but that's going to be concerning for some people because there's going to be people getting out of prison early, and some serving shorter sentences, even in confinement at all, and they're going to emphasize more reentry and rehabilitation, which is good for the people that are amenable, and not much of a good use of time for those that are not. And there are both categories that exist out there.
Right.
So the key for the Department of Corrections is going to be how are they going to
sift
discern
Yes.
between the two?
Yeah.
Because again, recidivism rates are fairly substantial. And then very often they go back to the same communities from whence they came. So that's going to be a challenge for the state. And I'm sure there's going to be additional Second Amendment related issues that I expect to see, because 1639 has now been on the books for 2 years, and therefore there's not a barrier presented by that legislation. So I'm going to watch very carefully what happens in the legislature referencing Second Amendment rights to firearms.
Well, and I guess it's kind of flippant, but what do they not understand about our U.S. Constitution and the Second Amendment? It's pretty darn clear.
Yes, the language is very clear, although I will say, even in times well prior to this, the language has not usually been interpreted literally. However, I think it is rapidly approaching the time when I hope, quite frankly, that the United States Supreme Court is going to take up the issue of rifles. They've pretty much resolved the handgun issue in the Heller case.
Okay.
However, there's starting to become some splits in the circuit courts, and even where the circuit courts agree, very often, if you dig a little deeper, it's a 5-4 decision.
Oh, no.
Okay. So there's not a lot of agreement. I actually hope that in some term of the U.S. Supreme Court of my lifetime, they take this issue head on and say, hey, guess what? We're going to decide this issue once and for all. Let's do it. Pick the right case and go to work.
There may be a couple of cases like that with what's going on right now that we may see in the next few years.
And that's entirely possible.
On several issues.
That's entirely possible.
Everything from healthcare to, I was going to say what I normally say, strangulation of babies, meaning killing babies.
Right, right.
And some of the other issues and so forth. And maybe we'll actually get now, hopefully, a reading of the law as written.
Well, I'm an originalist when it comes to constitutional language, and I think that I think Justice Scalia was quoted one time as saying something to the effect that if it's not in the Constitution, I'm not putting it in there for you.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But not everybody agrees with that philosophy.
I know, well.
So, and I'm not on the Supreme Court. So.
No. And you're not putting your name up for it, are you?
No, I'm not.
I asked this morning
I've got a full plate.
Judge Staub about that. She said, no way.
Yeah.
I said, you don't aspire to that? No.
You want to
it's
talk
not as
about
much fun as it used to be.
You want to talk about a grilling, right?
Oh, gosh, yes,
So.
absolutely. Larry, thank you for all you do for all of us. I know you put in long hours. I know you personally have taken on a couple of cases, which I admire you for, because it would be easy to sit in your office and help your staff do things. But it does make a very loud and clear statement when the prosecutor is out there in the courtroom.
It does. I actually campaigned on that notion.
Yes, you
Kent,
did. I remember.
that it should not be an event to see the county prosecutor in
Right,
the courtroom.
right.
So
You've
I
done
think
it a few times.
I think it still is, but nonetheless, I have 3 murder cases on my caseload right now.
Do you really?
I do.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, I'm still in it because I believe in it.
But doesn't that set it up for a good example for your staff, though, too?
I think so.
I mean, I don't mean you do it for that reason, but I mean,
Well,
the
and
big guy down the hall that's got everything on his plate is
Yeah.
finding time to take a case to court.
Well, and the other thing too is I implemented a policy when I got elected that on homicides we always take 2 prosecutors, better 2 minds,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a split of the workload and that sort of thing.
Yes.
So when I do a case, I have a deputy with me,
Right.
and I take that as an opportunity to also do some teaching, particularly if I bring a
Absolutely.
younger one along.
Yeah.
Some cases, it's not a case you want to do teaching. You want to make sure that
No.
you've got the best.
No, but they're going to,
of the
just by
best.
through osmosis, going to learn something.
They're
by
going to
being
learn
there
something.
beside- Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank
So,
you
it's
for
my
all
pleasure.
you do.
Thank you, Ken.
On behalf of all of us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time right here on the Pulse of Spokane.
We believe every person is created in the image of God with immeasurable beauty and worth, that people should not be defined by their present condition or past mistakes. We are all broken. We need each other. Healing for our brokenness begins with connection, with understanding how much we are loved by a good God. And with healing comes change, the potential for joy and meaning. No one was created for mere survival on the streets, for an existence blurred by mind-numbing substances. Each person is created with a purpose, a unique gift no one else can offer the world. Our job is to help them rediscover it. Real people, real change. Union Gospel Mission.
Thanks for watching. Ask the host a question, recommend a guest, or check out any of our other programs on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com. Sponsored by Local 29 Firefighters Union,
Well Dressed Walrus, and Homes for You.